In this video, I'm going to be comparing using artificial intelligence compared to using a pro mastering engineer on a track that I recently just finished a mix on. The whole goal here is to see what's the difference between different AI platforms. We're going to be comparing Lander, eMastered, Mastering Studio, and then we'll also be comparing the Ozone 10 Advanced plugin as well, since that's just like a one-time thing you buy and then can use the plugin forever. We're going to be comparing that to a professional mastering engineer out of Nashville. We're going to talk about a few different things related to how much does it cost, what are we really getting out of it, and then what is the quality of these masters, and then finally, how big of a difference is this ultimately going to make in terms of actually distributing your music? Let's do it. So the very first thing I want to do is I want to actually show you the original mix of my track. Now, as you can see over here, if we look, I do have gain added here. That is the only thing. I'm not doing any compression, any limiting, no clipping, absolutely nothing, so that you can get an idea of what just my mix sounds like. I did mix this. This is my own mix, and then we're going to see what mastering does to this. So again, I boosted volume, so we're going to be sitting at about 0 dB at the loudest points, but you're going to see the mastering is still going to make it significantly louder in terms of perceived loudness, but I did bump this up. But the actual mix that I sent to my mastering engineer was at about -6 dB at the loudest point. So let's just go ahead and take a listen to a couple different sections of the song. We're going to start at the very beginning, which is, as you can see, very dynamically soft. Let's just play a little bit of it. So this is where things kind of start building, start growing. We had that low end, that kick. All right, and then of course, that's when we get loud. Let's go to the verse here.
Step out into the daylight, step out into the sunlight, don't hide from the truth, come on out.
So nice vocals that are sitting pretty well on top. I think the mix on this sounds really great. Let's just skip to the very end, which is the loudest point.
Wake up.
All right, so again, nice, big vocals, big drums, big bass. As we can see, this is a really dynamic track, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to show this, is because the suspicion that I have is that artificial intelligence is going to have a little bit of a harder time adjusting for the overall dynamic as opposed to a pro mastering engineer. So let's actually take a listen. Where I want to start here is with some of the AI mastering. So we're going to go ahead and start with Lander, which is probably one of the ones that people know the most. Now, the very first thing I'll say is you can tell right away looking at this that these peaks are getting, it looks like they're getting clipped, versus Mastering Studio, which you can see, it looks like we still have some space up here. All the other ones are not doing that. Lander is the only one that is doing that. So I'm kind of curious to see how this sounds. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the soft intro, see how it handles that, and then that big intro, which is a really big dynamic shift. We're gonna compare the different AI platforms first. This is Lander. Yeah, so the drums feel pretty darn squished, especially the snare. I can really hear in the cymbals. The cymbals are really getting squished quite a bit. I'm just kind of curious to go the loudest part here at the very end. Man, yeah, it's like when the snare hits, it's almost like it's kind of throbbing a little bit, and that's not good. That's not something you want. It feels pretty over the top, which I'm just gonna say I've used Lander a lot in the past, and Lander I have felt has done a really good job in the past. This is probably one of the worst masters I've gotten from Lander, just personally. Again, nothing against Lander. I've used them. I have nothing wrong with Lander. But like I said, when the snare hits, like just listen to when the snare hits and just try to listen to the rest of the instrumental. because that's such a loud moment. And I'm really listening to the cymbals. I can hear the cymbals are kind of just throbbing a little bit, which is not great. Not a very good thing. So let's kind of go to one of the quieter moments in the bridge.
Don't let your fear.
That is super bright too on the vocals. Like you can hear it is just extremely bright. I'm just kind of curious just to compare that with mastering. Let's just compare the vocals, this is the brightness.
Don't let your fear control who you are.
Yeah, listen to the difference on that. Like just listen to the difference in the brightness. This is Lander.
Don't let your fear.
Like I'm all for brightness, but that's super, super over the top, like just really harsh. So let's just listen to E mastered. I'm curious to see what the E mastered does on that vocal.
Don't let your fear control.
It's still bright, but not nearly as bad as Lander. I like Mastering Studio better.
Don't let your fear.
Still got some shimmer on it, but it's a little bit of a darker sound. It's not so harsh. So Mastering Studio is the Plugin Alliance AI platform. It's the one I think people probably know the least about. It's one of the newer ones.
Control who you are. Don't hide, come on out.
That bass sounds really good. I'm curious on Lander again.
Don't hide, come on out.
Man, I think it's really easy to be thinking, well, Lander's louder. But the problem is that it's squishing everything so bad. Like I'm hearing, like just again, listen to how it's getting whenever the snare hits.
Don't hide, come on out into.
It's louder, but I just don't feel like it's actually better.
Don't hide, come on out into the.
That's handling it much, much better. Let's go to the loudest part here. This is Mastering Studio. I like that. That's actually really good. I'm really impressed with that. What about E mastered? That's a little more like Lander in terms of the brightness, but it's not overdone and it still sounds good. Again, let's just go back to the original mix. Obviously, it's gonna be quieter. I'll bump it up a little bit. Compared to E mastered. I feel like the balance is really good on that. I think Lander again is way, way over the top. Yes, there is more loudness. It's just so over the top and it's so crushed. I would never release that. I would never release this Lander version. Mastering Studio, I think, is the best so far out of the AI options. So Mastering Studio is getting a little bit more loudness than E mastered. It also just feels to be handling the frequencies a little bit better, not quite so bright. I'm all for a bright master, but there is a point to where I think sometimes it's easy to be kind of manipulated into thinking a brighter master is better because sometimes brighter masters just kind of sound louder. Let's actually take a listen to Ozone 10. So Ozone 10, all I did on this was I did an amp analysis using their AI technology. I set it to pop. I did set it to rock initially, but I felt like the rock version, I did listen to it. It sounded a little bit over the top. So I did set it to pop. I felt like that blended the best overall with what I was looking for. So let's actually take a listen to Ozone 10. There's a lot of loudness there. There's a lot of loudness there. I'm just kind of curious to compare this to a Studio Master or Mastering Studio. I'm going to compare this to Mastering Studio now because I'm kind of at this point out of the 3 AI ones that we've tried so far that you can pay for online. I think Mastering Studio is the winner. So at that point, I'm going to kind of whittle it down. We're going to compare Mastering Studio to Ozone 10, and then we're going to compare those two from the Pro Master. Here we go. This is Mastering Studio. That's louder. Ozone 10 is definitely louder. And again, I didn't do anything with Ozone 10 at all. Man, that sounds pretty darn good. It sounds a little bit crushed. I'm gonna kind of turn the soft clip off. did have this set to go to 0 dB. So on the optimization, it's optimizing for 0.1 dB, 0.1 dB. If we were to set this to streaming, it's not gonna be as loud. And it is setting it to -1 dB, which is what they want for true peaks. So let's compare that now in terms of loudness. So here's Mastering Studio. Yeah, so now once we do that, I can hear there's a lot more low end on Mastering Studio, but I feel like it's a little bit more defined on Ozone 10. It's not quite as woofy, it's just a little bit more defined. And now Mastering Studio is louder since I made that adjustment. Let's actually take a listen to the Pro Master though. This is going into that final chorus, which is the loudest moment. You can hear in the cymbals, there's no like throbbing happening in the cymbals. It's very, very consistent, which is really, really good. The vocals sound awesome. Let's go to the intro here and kind of hear how it sounds at the very beginning. This is the Pro Master. There's just a lot of control on that. I'm kind of curious to see Ozone. It's brighter. It's brighter. Let's go back to Pro Master and then we'll do Mastering Studio again. Those are really close. That's very comparable actually. The drums are a little better on the Pro Master for sure. Listen to the drums. There's more shimmer on the drums, like hi-hats and cymbals have, there's just more clarity on those.
Step out into the daylight. Step out into the sunlight.
Vocals sound better on the Pro Master.
Don't hide from the truth, come on out. What are you waiting for? What are you hoping for? Time doesn't wait for you.
Major tonal difference when we go to Ozone 10. It's a lot more crispy and a lot less warm. Man, the thing with the Pro Master is it's just got such a good balance of everything. Everything is so well balanced. There's a perfect amount of warmth, there's a perfect amount of clarity, and then there's a perfect amount of low end. So the real question becomes, what about the price and what's the real differentiating factor between all of this? So when it's all said and done, Lander and eMastered are typically working off of subscription-based platforms. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of subscription-based platforms. That's my personal opinion because, you know, some weeks I might use more and then others less. I would personally rather just pay per thing as opposed to, you know, I guess doing it that way. And, you know, in my particular case, I just recently got Ozone 10, so I haven't really used Ozone 10 a whole lot. And my thought is that for me, where I'm making as much music as I am and getting more into licensing, I've been doing stuff for television, I would probably prefer using Ozone 10 and then just getting really good at using Ozone 10 because you pay for it one time and then you can just use it forever. But if I'm gonna be going for a legitimate release, I personally would go with the Pro Master. Yes, is the difference like, oh my gosh, so staggering between like Mastering Studio and the Pro Master? These were relatively comparable. And Mastering Studio, which is the Plugin Alliance version, is also one of the more affordable options. So I personally think Mastering Studio did the best job. I don't know what you guys think. You can let me know in the comments what you think. I think Mastering Studio, out of all of the AI options, Mastering Studio did the best. Ozone 10, I didn't do any tweaking with. I just literally literally clicked up the AI thing, it listened to it, it made the tweaks, it made the adjustments. But my thought is that I could very easily go into Ozone 10 here and then start working to match it to the ProMaster or to Mastering Studio. And then over time, really learn how to use Ozone 10. Again, I've spent literally no time with Ozone 10. So when it's all said and done, the ProMaster was $150 to get this master. And I know that this is going to be a phenomenal master that is ready for all platforms. And I also got the instrumental master as well. So that's the other thing, is that if you want an instrumental master, you're gonna have to pay twice with these different AI platforms. And the other thing that is a little bit concerning about that is that you're not really guaranteed to get a good comparable master from the instrumental to the actual master. And you want them to be comparable. Like, you want them to be the same. You don't want them to sound different, because especially if you're going for something like licensing, where people are going to be using maybe just the instrumental in television or in a commercial or any number of different things, you don't want to be in a situation where you are having to deal with one master sounding really bright and nice and shimmery, and then the instrumental's not that way. So that is one of the biggest challenges that would concern me about using AI for more official purposes, like official releases or licensing and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, my opinion, if I were to rank this, ProMaster definitely at the top, Mastering Studio is second, and then Ozone 10 I would put more as a third option with a big hyphen that says I could probably get it sounding a lot better than it does sound right now. Let me know in the comments what you think, and if you thought this video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. We'll see you in the next one.